All right, welcome in everybody. Let me just check the audio is a little loud. We're gonna take it down a notch. Hey, 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 check, check, check. 1, 2. All right, cool, we're good. Good to see you all. What's up? Kristen, welcome in. Still a little loud here. Hey, Mikkel. Hey, Pat. Check, check, check. 1, 2. All right, cool, we're good. Sabui, welcome in. Good to have you here. Excited to have you live as well. So today we were working with the posture called Flying Pigeon, Ekapada Galavasana 2. You see this camera's a little bit angled funny, so let me just change it slightly. There we go. Okay. And go to, all right, we're good. Ekapada Galavasana 2, no, not 2, just Ekapada Galavasana, flying pigeon pose. And we'll do a variation of flying pigeon that I find is most accessible. So there's the variation when you extend the leg and it looks like an actual pigeon pose on your arms. And then there's one where you pull the knee into the chest, and that's like a modification. And I think it's the far more accessible version, because the one where you extend the leg requires that you lean your body weight a lot further forward, or you go up higher, more like a handstand. Otherwise, the posture will always fall down in the backside. Now, I'll give you some quick tips on that when we get to it to be able to extend the leg if you're in that place in your practice. However, the primary focus here will be to maintain the smaller version, which is the more compact version that I think is a lot more accessible. Now, vast majority, the reason why people can't do this pose are one of two things: either the lack of flexibility or the lack of understanding the basic principles of kind of getting into an arm balance. So the basic principles are that you need to be able to lean your body weight forward. And getting into Galavasana, the issue is to get the ankle over the arm. The hands come down to the ground in a very awkward way, and it's very hard, and it's kind of confusing how to get the body into an arm balance, even if you're used to practicing arm balances. So we'll show you how I do that. And many of you, I know those of you here live, have done this with me before, so this will be, some of that will be a review, and we'll get back into it. I'm just gonna turn down the heat in here because it's probably blasting in your ear, so let me just lower that just slightly. Although I didn't realize the door to the yoga barn last night must have blew open. So when the heat came on today, it was heating up the outside weather, I guess. It was heating up the world outside instead of the barn itself. We got that one lowered. Now let's make this one lower so that we are okay. That should quiet them down a little bit. There we go. All right. Now it's less of a wind tunnel in here for you. So to get started in our pursuits to Ekapada Galavasana, let's just begin at standing in Tadasana. By the way, those of you that are, I know many of you practicing this immersion have the anatomy training. So the anatomy training, I know if you have it at this point, you bought it on pre-sale. Just wanted to let you know that it is almost complete. I have 2 more videos left, or 3 more videos left to film, and there are about currently 9 edited, finished, complete videos that are ready to go up, but I'm going to wait until the last 3 are completed. So good news for those of you waiting on that one, for the last section to be completed. All right, into Tadasana. Let's begin to explore a little bit of leaning our body weight forward and back on our feet. Since the feet are familiar, if you move your weight back on your feet, you move towards the heels of your feet. And if you move forward, you move towards your toes, okay? So back, your weight goes into your heels, forward towards the toes, right? So this is just a basic leaning of the center. Now, if what's happening for you is you are kind of swaying like this, right? Then you're counterbalancing your weight. I'd like for you when you lean back, you see how my feet have to lift up? It's because otherwise I would fall back. And then as I lean forward, my whole body comes forward and my toes have to grip. Even my heels start to lift up, right? So I'm trying to just lean in one straight piece, because the reality is to find an arm balance, you have to learn how to lean your body weight, not counterbalance like this, right? So this would be counterbalancing my body weight, so it stays over the center line regardless of where I go. We want to move the center line and force our body to go not back this way in an arm balance, but forward this way. You can feel with your toes, right? You have a lot more ability to lean this way and still stay balanced, whereas if you go back this way, you immediately start to fall. Most people try to balance their arm balances in the heel of the hand back this way, and there's very little ability to maintain balance that way. Whereas when you lean forward towards your fingers, you already have a tremendous amount of movement forward that you don't have in your heels, and you see your toes grip into the ground, and they stop you from falling. And that's what we're gonna do with our hands. All right, so with your hands, just pull your fingers, come a little closer to the camera, pull your fingers toward each other and press into one another. You see I have this kind of gripping of the finger pads into each other. Now I can do that with most fingers, just not my right pinky. I haven't practiced enough with the right pinky to kind of get there. I can place it. In any case, as long as your fingertips, so if you're doing this, this is fine, or this is fine. So fingertips or finger pads into one another. In acro yoga, we would call that handstand mudra. So my teacher Jason used to have us do handstand mudra at the beginning of every class. And it's really good just to kind of get yourself, your nervous system prepared for, okay, my hands are going to be active in this way when I do my arm balances, when my hands are on the ground. And then you push your fingers into each other and see which ones are not. I can tell my right hand is bullying my left because my fingers on the left side are more extended. So I'm going to try to bully my right side a little bit and force my left wrist muscles to be a little stronger. Okay, and then release. Inhale, reach the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale to the earth, bow, Uttanasana. Halfway lift, inhale. Pat, I believe the internet over here is good. It says excellent condition, so hopefully, unfortunately for you, I think it might just be your internet. My apologies if it is, but hopefully it is that for everybody else is okay. Step the left foot back. Pull your feet toward each other on the inhale. Round the upper back. Press through your right heel as you exhale and twist. We're going to hold. Full breath in. Full breath out. Again, full breath in. And out. One more. All right, place the right hand to the inside of the right foot, pivot the back heel down, left hand off to the left. Humble warrior 2, so we lengthen the chest on a diagonal, so I'm not towards the front foot like this. The back thigh bone is swayed back. My left hand's more or less in line with the center of the pelvis. Lengthen the chest forward. Pause here and press down through your right heel. When I press down through my right heel, I try to lift my right pelvic bone up a little bit, and that will help to kind of rotate it so it's not stuck on the right thigh. Now move the pelvis back to slowly lower the chest. And see if you can keep pressing down through your right heel and lengthen the back of the skull. So in Galavasana, we have kind of this rounded upper back, so we want to make sure that the fullness of the back body is, we're capable of accessing that fullness, and to do so, we want to stretch the erector spinae, the back muscles all the way through, so that we can easily access our core strength
Not because core strength is what makes us fly, but because Galavasana is a very compact pose. It requires a lot of flexion of the spine to be able to get into the posture. All right, come undone. Straighten through the front leg as you inhale. And exhale, bow. Wag the tail a little to the left so you feel the stretch in the outside line of the hamstrings. Again, let's try to flex the spine, so pull the ribs back. Draw the chin towards chest so you feel the stretch from the buttocks all the way through the skull. Okay, bend the knee. Step to down dog. Forward to plank, inhale. Lower chaturanga. Slide the hands wide, three-part cobra. Soften. Pull the chest forward. And release. Inhale to plank pose. Exhale, down dog. Lift and lengthen the hamstrings. Lift the sit bones up. Press the backs of the legs apart. Let's take the right leg to the sky. Inhale. Step right foot forward. Push down, rise, high lunge. Twist right hand back, left arm forward. So, for those of you practicing the extended version of Galavasana today, this is a necessary stretch of the back hip flexors. You want to straighten the back leg and reach through your heel. Now, what can be beneficial either way is to activate the hip flexors while they're stretching. So for those of you practicing the preliminary version, you would really want to focus on activating your hip flexors. It's going to help keep the leg on the arm. So you're going to press the ball mount of the back foot down and drag it forward. When we start doing Galavasana, the challenge a lot of people face is the leg that's on the arm slips off because of the tightness of the hip that's on the arm. But you can really change that in an instant by activating your opposite hip flexors. I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, let's go to reverse warrior. Open up. Stretch through the right waistline. 2 more breaths. Good, both hands to the ground. Turn the pelvis closed, step forward, halfway lift. Press the backs of the legs apart. Notice the difference between your right and left side now. Squeeze in, rise up. Hands to heart. Inhale, reach up. To the earth. Halfway lift. Right foot steps back. Straight through the back leg, but press the ball mount of the back foot down. Drag it forward. Puff up the upper back and rotate. Left hand to the sky. Inhale to unwind, left hand to the inside of the foot, back heel pivots down. Right hand walks back, again, in line with the center of the pelvis. So you're more on a diagonal with your torso, not more facing the front. So you free up the, and actually do this. Press your left heel down and see if you can lift your left pelvic bone, the front of your, it's called the ASI, so the front of your pelvis up a little bit. And you see how I move my left sit bone towards the left knee, so the pelvis rotates slightly, allowing so that the left hip is not kind of pinching itself. There's some space there. Now move the groins back. See, I move my butt back, in this case towards you. I'm gonna change the angle. Okay, so I move my pelvis back, and that allows my chest to start moving forward. Again, I want to try to keep the left pelvic bone a little bit free and not collapsing on the thigh, so there's more rotation at the pelvis. Okay, this gives you a nice deep hip opener. Again, we're also trying to get the full stretch of the erector spinae, so I'm going to activate my abdominal muscles, pulling the ribs back slightly and lengthening the back of the skull. Okay. Come on out of that. We're going to pivot the back, pelvis closed, straighten through the front leg. And then and then bow first. Then once you're in your hamstring stretch, start to wag the tail to the right. Couple more breaths. Bend the front knee, inhale. Step the chaturanga. Hands wide, three-part cobra. Soften. Pull the chest forward. Stretch the belly long. Release. Plank pose. Exhale, down dog. Enjoy a full breath in and out. So I use the inhale, if you watch my shoulders, I really use the inhale to stretch and get long, expand the upper body so that I push into my hips and the sit bones can lift and widen. That's actually really mostly coming from the shoulders. So you see how the shoulders dip here. That actually takes me out of my stretch of my hamstrings, takes me into kind of a collapsed pose. But I inhale and I push through my shoulders. And additionally, for today, it's very helpful to not just stop at the shoulders, but push all the way through your fingers. Grip your fingers into the ground and push through the front edge of your hand where the fingers meet the palm. That's called the heads of the metacarpals. So the front edge of your hand, down, fingers down, and that's a nice long strong push that's going to really kind of give you a feeling of what you would need to do in all arm balances and handstands. You really push and get long in the body. Okay, left leg to the sky, inhale, step forward, rise, high lunge, coming into the twist. Okay, so the back knee will tend to bend for most of us here. You're going to straighten through the back leg, really get it strong so you get a feeling of what it would be like to have to, in Galavasana, when you extend the back leg, if, when that day comes for you, the back knee will tend to be bent and kind of casual, but you have to actually strengthen the quads and reach through the heel in order to get it more towards straight. Otherwise, the leg will always be falling down. There's no option when you're in those poses. Okay, so do that, but then press the ball mount of the back foot down and like a pendulum swing, swing the leg down and forward, activating the hip flexors. Reverse warrior, inhale. Okay, hands to the ground, pelvis closes, straighten, or step forward, I should say, halfway lift, and then exhale to bow. Bend the knees, chair pose. And let's take a twist, left tricep, right thigh. Round the upper back slightly, rotate the chest, lengthen through the skull.
Let's do 2 more breaths. Okay, lean the knees forward. So literally move your knees towards your toes, and then slide the left foot back. And then once you do so, you can lean back and gather strength. Press down through the ball mound of the back foot with a straight back knee and drag it forward. So you have the back hip flexors active. Turn the belly. Okay, push down through your right heel, rise up high lunge. Open warrior 2. Reverse warrior. Exhale, side angle preparation. Move the pelvis back. Bring the right hand to the inside of the right foot. Lengthen like a little bit of a back bend. Reach through the skull. Left hand to the sky. Press down through the center of your right heel. Get your right buttock muscles active. Really important for today is to activate your glute muscles. Learning how to do that in a deep stretch of them is what will get you flying in a flying pigeon posture. You have to be able to activate your glutes when they're stretching. So press down through your right heel. See if you can sustain that. The tendency will be to kind of like push in the heel and then forget. Push and forget. See if you can push and sustain. Okay. That requires kind of a meditative focal point for the mind to stay active. And you just ask yourself, am I engaging my buttocks? Okay, both hands down. Place the back knee down, right foot to the right. Let's start with a thigh stretch. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Bend the back knee, reach with your right hand for the foot. Now, in your thigh stretch, for those of you that are going to extend your Galavasana, we of course want to stretch the hip flexors because it makes it easier to extend the leg. But for everybody, we're going to also do what's called a facilitated stretch. You're going to activate your hip flexors. So you press your left knee down and try to lift the pelvis up as a result. So I press down. Let me get the side angle for you. So I press the left knee down and pop the left hip up slightly like this, okay? And you're gonna feel hopefully less stretch in the hip flexors as a result. Now that action of pressing the knee down and dragging it forward is the very important, necessary action in the hip flexors for anybody that is balancing the initial phase of Ekapada Galavasana, flying pigeon with the knee into the chest. And that's what's going to keep the ankle from slipping off your arm. So really get the hip flexors active by pressing the knee down and dragging it forward. Now, for those of you that are thinking, well, I'm going to extend the leg back, so I want to stretch the muscle, this is also one of the more effective ways of stretching muscles to engage it while it is lengthening. It's called a facilitated stretch. It's a way of speaking to the nervous system that gets what's called the Golgi tendon organ to release the tension on the muscle. Okay, release the thigh stretch. Lift the pelvis up a little bit so you see how I move the top of the back thigh up. Now this is going to stretch into my right hip more as I slide the pubic bone back to place the elbows onto the ground. I'm not touching my right thigh at this point. My right knee and shoulder are not connected for this variation. Okay, so for those of you doing the preliminary Ekapada Galavasana, and if you don't know, that's you. So if you don't know which variation you're working on, this is you. Pull your back knee forward isometrically so you get the hip flexors to activate, and your bum is up to the sky, so you're stretching your front hip. Those of you that know that you're working on version 2 where you're extending the back leg, well, you could keep that activation of your hip flexors, but also activate your quads. So you straighten through the back leg and reach through the heel in this position here. Now, either way, you could be working on this variation if you'd like, but you want to make sure your hip flexors are active. So if the knee is down, you're pressing the knee down and dragging it forward. That's going to be a lot more closely related to Ekapada Galavasana
the preliminary posture with the knee into the chest. That's really going to give you a sensationally accurate experience. Where those of you extending the leg, of course, you want to straighten through the back knee because that's going to be a lot more closely related to your final experience. Okay, then release. Let's place the palms to the ground. Step to plank pose on the inhale. Woo! Chaturanga. 3-part cobra, inhale.
Soften. Pull the chest forward. Release.
Plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Full breath in. Lengthen, exhale it out. Let's do 2 more breaths. Lift the heels up, inhale. Check in with your body. Maybe you walk, maybe you step, maybe you hop. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, bow. To the sun, rise.
To the heart. Let's just revisit handstand mudra for a moment. Press your fingers into the ground, into each other, I should say, and just reminder of where your flexors of your wrist are. You can press, this is the heads of the metacarpals. Right here is what I was saying, the front edge of the hand, where the finger meets the palm. That's the heads of the metacarpals. You push that into one another. Okay, chair pose, inhale. And twist to the left. Rotating the spine, left palm on top of right. Two more breaths in your chair pose. Okay, move the knees forward. Slide the right foot back. Twisted lunge. Again, we want to, get settled into your posture. See, I'm lifted in my chest. I'm not collapsing. Back leg is straight and strong. And then let's find the hip flexors. Press the back foot down and drag it forward like a pendulum swing. Get your right hip flexors active. But also, your left buttocks should be active. Can you press down through your left heel? Okay, that's going to be super important regardless of which variation you do. You got to get your left or front hip muscles to engage, your buttock muscles to engage when they're in this flexed position, right? So there's a stretching of the buttock muscles when the hip is in flexion like this. But you want to be able to find, how do you push through the heel? How do you activate your glutes? Press down. Okay, inhale, high lunge. Open warrior 2. Reverse. Side angle. Groins back, pelvis back. Keeping the pelvis back, slide the left hand to the inside of the left foot. Lengthen the chest. Turn the heart. Right hand to the sky. So can you find your left buttock muscles by pressing down through the left heel? It's hard because these, like your left buttock muscles and your hamstrings and everything, your deep hip flexion. Usually these muscles are not necessarily active when in deep hip flexion. They're kind of turned off. Some of them are really shortened because of how abducted your hip is. Some are a little bit lengthened because of how flexed. It's a confusing place for the muscles. So you want to try to find them by pushing down through your heel. Okay, release. Pivot the back knee down. Left foot over to the left.
And again, watch how I move the pelvis, not from this position here. I'm gonna slide the groins back. And I do that by pressing my back knee down and dragging it forward. So I use the back hip flexors to drag my pelvis back. Now I place the elbows on the ground, and my left knee in this case is just it's not touching my chest anymore. By anymore, I mean like we did in previous classes, we may have squeezed the knee in. Right now I'm letting it be free enough that my torso comes down on the inside. Back knee is pulling forward, activating the hip flexors. Now again, for most of us, this is going to be the most accurate experience as far as the hip flexors go, pressing the knee down and dragging it forward, okay? But for those of you that know you're working on variation 2, which would be the full extension of the back leg, then it's going to be more important for you to press the ball mound of the back foot down. Yes, still have your hip flexors active, but straighten through the back knee joint. And of course, in the front leg, we're trying to find the hamstrings and buttocks by pressing down through the heel. Now the pelvis is closed as opposed to side angle when the pelvis was open. So the pelvis being closed is a little bit more accurate to what the hamstrings and glute muscles of the front leg will have to experience. Closer, we're getting closer to Galavasana and pigeon pose. Okay, and release. I'm gonna step into plank pose on the inhale. Exhale, chaturanga. Slide hands, feet wide, 3-part. Melt, shoulders back, heart forward. Pull the heart through. And release. Plank, inhale. Actually, come to all fours, please. And we're going to do a little bit of exploration of the hands. So I usually do index finger forward for most of my arm balances. So the rest of the fingers turn out slightly. And then grip your fingers into the ground and see that your finger pads or fingernails turn white. And again, it's okay if it's fingertips or it's finger pads, whatever you can do to grip the ground and get the flexors of your wrist active. And then you want to press the heads of the metacarpals that I just showed you, the front edge of your hand where the finger meets the palm. Okay, that's your heads of your metacarpals. Now press that down and lift the heel of the hand up slightly. Now ever so slowly lower the heel of the hand down without touching the heel of the hand to the earth. Just slowly lower until you feel like the heel of the hand is just barely touching. You can feel like a little tickle of the yoga mat underneath your palm, but you're still taking the weight off of it by pushing through the heads of the metacarpals. Not by leaning back, that's really easy. You keep leaning forward, but you press down through the heads of the metacarpals, press down through your fingers, and the heel of the hand just kind of tickles the mat just very lightly, like light as a feather there. Okay, then place the heel of the hand down. Relax for a moment. You can lean back to take the weight off of the wrist. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Now, what's important to understand is that we're not going to get stronger in one class, but we do want to awaken the awareness of these flexors of the wrist that happen on the palmar side of the forearm. They press the fingers and the palm into this flexioned position, and that's what stops us from falling forward. Just like if you leaned forward on your feet, your toes would grip the ground. Well, now we're going to lean forward on our hands. So step 1 would be doing this on all fours. Step 2, you can do this in plank pose. So take your hands to the ground. Again, shoulder width apart-ish. It could be a little bit wider. Fingers grip the ground. And then you can lean back for a moment and slowly start to lean forward. And as you lean forward, press down through the fingers and try to resist the lean forward. Shoulder blades are apart. You see how my upper back is full. You see how my torso is rounded. And then you lean back and you keep pushing through your hands. Lean forward, grip, 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 lean back. Now, if this feels good, meaning you feel strong and stable, then take it up a notch. If you don't feel strong and stable, stay where you are on all fours. Taking it up a notch would be lifting the knees up, and then you have to move your ankles to kind of just lean forward and back. The more you lean forward, the more intense it is on the wrist. So you have to grip the ground really solidly. And you take short, quick little breaks and just get up and do it again. You want to get the wrists primed and ready, not kind of, you want to bully them, right? We're not trying to bully the wrists. We're just trying to get them ready for the experience of getting into our arm balance. So quicker, shorter repetitions and then breaks. So again, you can just go to all fours like so, and don't sink into falling forward. Resist the leaning forward. The body's gonna lean forward, but your fingers should be resisting that action, okay? Whether it's in plank or on all fours. Upper body full, back rounded. Okay, then take another quick break. You can change the wrist to extension, change it to flexion. Because what we're doing is we're activating the flexors of the wrist, but we're putting the wrist into deep extension. Okay, so we're trying to just reverse that for a moment and put the wrist into deep flexion. Okay, one more round. Okay, and what you could also do, I should just mention that you could play around with the rotation of the hands. I like index finger forward more often than not. That feels nicest on my wrist. Some people really love middle finger forward. Some people even go further into like the lobster claw because there's a little bit more range of motion. Depending on the structure of your hand, which finger is forward is going to feel more comfortable on the wrist. So changing it appropriately and listening to what does the wrist feel. What does it want? What is the sensation? What is most spacious, right? But also, where do I have the greatest strength? Okay, so downward facing dog. Now in your downward dog, fingers grip the ground, push, get long. One more breath. Okay, lift the heels up, inhale, look forward. Empty the breath, hop or step lightly. When you get there, halfway lift. Exhale and bow. Bend the knees, chair pose. We're gonna come up to stand. All right, so let's do a little bit of hip flexor awareness. Bend your knees like you're in a little mild chair pose. Bring your right knee up, press it into your right hand so you feel your right hip flexors activate. Move the pelvis and groins back. Okay, this should be engagement of the front of the hip there. And it's going to be really important when we get into Ekapada Galavasana, the preliminary variation, because this is what's going to keep the ankle closer and more compact, keep it on the arm. Switch sides. Pelvis back, find your hip flexors, push up into your hand, hand presses down into the knee. Of course, you can make this easy on yourself by putting a little pressure, or you can make it hard by pushing down. That's what's best for you is challenging yourself appropriately so you feel like this is hard, it's difficult, but it's doable. Okay, and then asking that question, you also have to ask your body, not your mind. Your mind always wants the least amount of effort, like to a certain degree. Your body, on the other hand, it likes to be challenged. It likes strength building. It wants that health. It wants that. But the mind is a little different story. It has less patience. Okay, so let's take the right ankle over the left knee, our first ankle to knee pose. And I would suggest blocks for this first variation. And what we'll do is just bow straight forward, and you'll try to sit your left hip down, okay? So that your chest is more level to the ground. So I'm basically in a halfway lift position, lengthening through the torso as I sit down through the left buttocks. Now, check in with your right foot. I'm going to change the camera angle so we have another view here. Your right foot will tend to sickle, and the palm of the foot or the sole of the foot will face up to the sky. You're going to flex it and evert, so that means you're going to turn the sole of your foot. You have to kind of relax your foot for a second so you can give it a few circles. Use your hand to turn the big toe to face down, and you reach through the big toe mound. Like instead of the sole facing up, sole tries to face down. Then just kind of keep the knee to the right as you sit down. Okay, so lengthening the chest. And right now we're in a passive stretch at the right hip. but they're trying to get their right ankle to dorsiflex like this and evert. That's what's going to clamp the foot around the arm, is this action. If the foot slips up, then the leg's going to slide right down your arm, okay? Flex. Imagine you're trying to pull it into your knee, the pinky toe specifically. All right, come on up. Now, what we just did was use gravity to pull the leg closer to the chest. In an arm balance, the knee, the ankle on top of the knee, the gravity's not there to assist pulling the leg tighter into the chest. You have to actually utilize the hip flexors of the bottom leg to pull the ankle closer to the chest. So watch, or do this with me. But so as I sit down, slide the bum back, the pressure of knee to ankle is what takes this left hip now into a deeper stretch. If the foot wasn't on the ground, the right foot wasn't on the ground, then I would have to use my right hip flexors to pull this ankle closer to my chest. So that's why we worked a little bit with those hip flexors, is to really try to get ourselves aware and awake to the fact that the right knee right now, if it wasn't for the foot being on the ground, we'd have to really pull the knee to the chest in order to keep this ankle closer to our chest. So right now we're using the privilege of having the gravitational pull and of course earth pushing us back in order to stretch our left hip. Later on we won't have that privilege. We'll have to use our hip flexors of the bottom leg to pull the leg tighter into the chest. Eventually your hip flexibility becomes what's the word? You gain enough hip flexibility, in the left hip in this case, that you'd be able to be in this position without the right knee, without the support of the right knee pressing into the ankle. Okay, I can feel right now I'm not even close to that level of flexibility today. Normally, yes, I can extend the back leg, no problem, but I'm gonna have to work a little bit harder in my postures right now to get to that point today. Come on up, unwind, Tadasana, full breath in, full breath out. Bend the knees, chair pose. Exhale, hands to the ground. Halfway lift, inhale. Bend the knees. Plant the palms, grip your fingers into the earth. Chaturanga. 3-part cobra, inhale. Melt. Pull the chest through your shoulders. Release. Plank. Down dog, exhale. Right leg to the sky, inhale. Step right foot forward. Push down, rise, high lunge. Warrior 2. Reverse warrior. Warrior 2. And take interlaced hands behind the back. Open the shoulders. Bow to the inside of the right leg. Release the hands to the ground. Pelvis closes, straighten through the right leg, and now pivot the pelvis close. Walk your hands to the right. Stretch through the right outer hip, preparing ourselves for pigeon pose, giving us a little bit more of a stretch before we get there. Okay, now walk your right foot back a little bit
Take it into a modified side planking or stick your right buttocks up to the sky. Bend your left knee, and we'll come into Gomukhasana legs. So you come on down, right knee on top of left. Be mindful as you make that transition to go slow. Bow to your right to stretch the left outer hip now. Just taking a side bend, the left IT band to stretch. My left foot is out to the side. It's that wide-footed variation of this pose. You know, like, so not heels close to bum, but feet wide, as if you're in Agni Stambhasana, but with knees on top of each other instead of ankle to knee. All right, coming out. I come into lizard pose, so transition. So right foot comes down like this, back knee comes back. Now, in this lizard pose, you're going to turn your right toes out and externally rotate. So you see how I move the right knee now, or right thigh bone, I should say, out to the right, but I don't collapse in the ankle. Okay, we want to keep the everted ankle. So think big toe touches the ground. And actually, let's, for today, keep the big toe and big toe mound down as we externally rotate. Ooh, really reach the big toe and big toe mound down. See, it really wants to pick up, and I'm just going to try to keep it everted to prepare myself for my flying pigeon. My heel is coming up here, but I'm really trying to keep the eversion in the ankle. You see, I'm just priming the hip for external rotation, getting it ready for my pigeon pose. Back knee, by the way, get your hip flexors active. So press your back knee down, drag it forward. I feel like we missed a thigh stretch on the right leg. Now that randomly just remembering that. If we did, we can sneak it in over here on the next side. Or did we get it? I can't remember, sorry. Okay, you're gonna walk the right foot to the left. Now at this point, some of you are gonna be able to get your knee to the ground, others of you not at all, so you're gonna bring the foot back if that's the case. But what I really like to do is get our shin up on a block, or two in my case, because I have more like 3/4 blocks. And really get the foot to hook onto the blocks, or block. See, I need 2 blocks. I have a big foot and I have small blocks. So I gotta wrap this foot down, and I would be touching the ground if I didn't have the 2 blocks. So I'm really thinking pinky toe is trying to pull into the block. And that's going to be a lot of work for the shin muscles, but that's what's going to keep this leg clamped on the arm, help it from sliding down. Now pull your back knee forward isometrically, and I just utilize that to kind of pull my right hip back, and then move everything back a little bit if possible without losing the back knee pulling forward. Oh, really try to not lose the grip of the ankle around the toes into the block. All right, and come on out. Remove the blocks. Downward facing dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. Find your fingers, grip the ground, remind yourself. Forward to plank, inhale. Fingers grip the ground, chaturanga. Hands wide, 3-part. Melt. Pull chest through. Release. Blank pose. Down dog. Left leg to the sky. Step forward. Push, rise. Warrior 2. Reverse. Exhale, hands behind the back, interlace the fingers. Open the shoulders.
Bow to the inside of your left leg. Okay, and release. Back knee's gonna come down. Left foot to the left. Let's see, I know we did this version. I'm just running. Did we prime the hip first? Too long of a sequence for me to remember. We're gonna prime the hip. And when I'm priming the hip, trying to keep the big toe and big toe mound pressing into the earth. That's one of the bigger challenges. I know I'm missing something in the sequence. I'm trying to figure out what that was, but we'll go with this for now. And if we did miss the thigh stretch, I think we did. I'm gonna grab that right now. With the right leg back, I think we missed the thigh stretch, so might as well. If we didn't miss the thigh stretch and you have full recollection that we didn't, then just skip this pose and we can go straight to the side plank modification. Okay, so side plank, left foot goes down to the left and press your left hip to the sky. Yes, we missed it on the left side. Okay, cool. We did miss the thigh stretch. Good to know. Thanks for letting me know. Now we didn't. All right, now we're gonna bend the right knee. Place the left knee on top. And typically when you come down into this kind of this variation, I should say, it's not a modification, it is Galavasana. That is what is this called? Well, anyway, what happens when you come down is that the left hip tends to be up higher, so you're gonna lift your hips up, try to get the left hip towards the ground. It's not necessarily possible, so that's why we lean to the left and try to get the right hip to stretch a little bit more. So knees on top of each other, the best of our ability, feet wide, and try to lean to the left to stretch the right hip muscles in this position. Gomukhasana, there's the word, Gomukhasana. Cow face pose. So one challenge of hip opening is it makes my mind more relaxed and hard to have the mind relaxing while I'm also trying to memorize the sequence as I go along. All right, so coming back, and I know I missed something on the first side, but we're gonna take the ankle across. Roll the shin over the blocks and evert. Evert the ankle means you're I'm not going to go too deep in that today, but what you can think of is pinky toe pressing into the block specifically, and that will inevitably cause your fibularis muscles, the muscles outside the shin, to activate as well as what's called the tibialis anterior. So you're just trying to dorsiflex flex the pinky toe into the blocks, okay? Then move your hips back and pull your back knee forward while your hips are back, which is contradictory statements, right? So I want to move my hips back, but also activate by pressing the left knee down and dragging it forward. Pinky toe, pinky toe, pinky toe. That's what it's all about, okay? Because that's what's gonna keep the ankle on the arm for Galavasana.
keep it from slipping. There's two things that keep the leg on the arm. One, clamping the foot around the arm itself. Those of you that are doing the fully extended version, that's all you got because the other leg is back behind you. Those of you doing the preliminary version, your other knee pressing it into your ankle will keep your leg on the arm as well. So that's why it's preliminary, because you have two things helping you stay in the posture. When you do the extended version, the leg goes up and back. You only have the ankle strength keeping the leg on the arm. Otherwise it slips off and you're in one-legged crow pose, which is cool too, but a completely different posture. Let's come on out of that. We're actually gonna come onto our, oh, just slammed the, okay, well, camera 2 is good anyway. So what we're gonna do is come into our back and explore what would be required of Ekapada Galavasana. Now think about this, take your left ankle over your knee. In Ekapada Galavasana, your left shin in this case would be in your armpits. So how would you get it there? A couple of things. Your right knee, so your right hip flexors, would activate to pull the leg closer to your chest. So do that a few times, just pull the leg tight into your chest as you can. And if you don't do anything else, you can't get very far, but watch, I use my abdominal muscles to bring it really tight. So I use my abdominals to flex the spine. So flex the spine and pull the knee tight into the chest. If you have any sort of intervertebral disc issue and injuries, flexing the spine is not advised. So you would just stay here, understanding that this posture is probably not the best pose to work with, okay? But you can work on everything up to this point, just don't flex the spine. But otherwise, you can try to bring it nice and tight. And then if you want to take the next step, you actually try to hold the posture, hold Ekapada Galavasana with the ankle and the arm. So you reach your arms up. You can do a sit-up first, or there's two ways of doing this. The easy way would be what we just did. Kind of use gravity to help yourself get this foot around the arm, right? And you see I'm holding onto my other foot, and then you can release the foot, and here you are. That's the easier way. And you see I'm clamping my pinky toe around the arm, and I'm doing Galavasana. The hard way would be to do a sit-up this way, then go. Just a little bit more effort. I think it's hard, but it's easier in some respects, so. And then if it was hard to keep the leg tight into the chest, then it's definitely gonna be hard when you're trying to also balance the pose in an arm balance. Okay, let's go to camera 1, I think would be good. Okay, so the other side now. And notice the difference between the two legs. I'm now gonna be doing the same thing. So first, just using your hip flexors. This is my tighter side. So my left hip flexors are gonna have to work harder because my right hip muscles are tighter. And then try to go all the way with your core muscles. Just doing the little small holds for a moment is easier, of course, and then let's try to sustain it. So you can reach the arms up and go about it two ways. First, by keeping the torso on the ground and waiting for the leg to come to you. And then doing a sit-up. So that's like this. And you can pull your way in and use your arms and get yourself snuggled in, and then release into arm balance, upside down. Try to clamp this pinky toe around the arm, and then release. And then we're gonna try to do it by doing a sit-up first, and then bringing the leg to the arm without using the hands to grab the foot and grapple with ourselves. So just using pure abdominal and hip flexor strength. Wrapping this pinky toe around the arm. Okay. I suggest after doing those, you press the back of the head into the ground as you just engage the front of your neck to lift up. So engage the back of the neck as well.
Okie dokie. So, let's come around.
One more preparatory posture.
We'll take the right shin across the mat. We're going to do pigeon pose here. Pigeon pose, but with the strength in the, oh, you're over here, sorry. Strength of the front buttocks. So right shin across the mat. You're going to try to get it as parallel to the front of the mat as you can without sacrificing the knee. The reason you're trying to get it more parallel today is because the more parallel it is on your arm, the easier it is to keep it clamped. But don't confuse that with it being correct. It's just easier to get it clamped. So we're going to take the leg across the arm and, more parallel as we can, again, without sacrificing the knee. So if you feel any strain, pain, discomfort in the knee, any sensation in the knee is probably not a good sensation. Okay, so we take the right shin across the mat the best you can, and then back hip back, and both sides of your pelvis level. Press the pinky toe into the ground so that you can lift the ankle up. You see, I can slide a hand underneath here, okay? Weep. So the ankle's lifted. Lean to my left a little bit so that I don't fall to my right hip. Press the right knee down and try to walk your hands on top of your thigh. So my heel now is pressing up into my hand. There's still space underneath the ankle. That's the everting ankle. And using my buttocks to keep my torso lifted. Now, the hard version would be to round the spine, lean forward like this. The easier version is to lift up and use your back muscles. Your choice. Round the back. Press your right knee down into the ground using your buttock muscles. And this is what's required in flying pigeon. Whoo. Of course, if you're really activating your glutes, you're pressing the knee down. That's is a short-lived, sustained period of time that you can hold it for most of us. We'll take the left shin unless you're really strong and flexible at the same time. Then bravo to you. Ankle lifts up, hand slides underneath. Pelvis is level. Press the left knee and shin down into the ground so your left glutes activate and your hips can rise up higher. Again, you have a couple of variations. I'm going to just put my hands on my thighs to start. It gives me a little bit of lift and I can start to round the back. My left knee is pressing down, so my glutes are getting tired already. Options. Round the back, lean forward, or of course lift up. It's a little bit easier. You can use your back knee a little more. The back knee pulls forward, left knee pulls down and back. Okay. Hard to sustain that. All right, the time has come. Let's try it out. So we'll start with flying pigeon on the right side, and give you a number of demonstrations here. The biggest challenge for most people, of course, the flexibility of the hips. Some people would think, oh, I don't have enough core strength. You just need enough core strength to get tight and compact. So a lot of times it's just flexibility of the spinal muscles more than anything else, and just some core strength is required. The requirement to lean forward, that's where it gets confusing, because once you get into the compactness of this posture, the ability to lean forward is very confusing. So watch that part. Take the right ankle over the knee like this. Everybody's going to do the preliminary version for sure. Okay, and then so watch how I get the ankle to my left armpit first. So I actually drop my right knee first to get my left. See how I drop when I drop my right knee? Watch how it brings my right ankle closer to my left armpit. So you see I dip down into the right. Then I clamp the pinky toe around the arm. And then I lift my right knee into my right armpit. Boom. Now, this is where everyone gets confused, because if you just tried to do an arm balance here, it would never happen. Your left foot is full of weight. In fact, you can see I can lift my hands up. So that means all the weight is in my left foot, right? So I have to somehow
get to a point where my hands have all the weight and my left foot has none of the weight, whilst keeping this ankle over the armpit. So I'm just wiggling around a little bit to try to get the ankles up as tight to the armpit as possible. I sit my butt down and tippy toe my fingers out in front, and then watch, I lean forward and come up onto the tippy toes of my left foot. Now, re-engage, clamp and press down through my right shin like it's pigeon pose, and pull my left knee to the chest, and perhaps that gives you some flight or not. But you do the mechanics, right? So you get here, you tippy toe forward, lean, 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 get to this point here, fingers gripping the ground, press your right shin down, drag your left knee forward. Maybe the left leg lifts up, maybe it doesn't. Okay? And you get to the preliminary version of Ekapada Galavasana. Flying or not flying doesn't make a difference. Do the mechanics. Okay, so now you kind of get a little feel for what's going on in the arm. We'll do it from the side angle. Preliminary Ekapada Galavasana. Take a breath. Okay, left ankle over right knee. And don't underestimate the amount of time it takes to get into the posture, because the body doesn't just automatically let you go into deep hip opening right away. You have to coax it into, just kind of convince it that, hey, this is where we're going. And it says, oh, wait, really? And then you wiggle your way in. So I drop my left hip and get the left, right? So I get my left ankle up as high on the right armpit as possible. And then I clamp and I try to get the pinky toe onto the arm. That's the dorsiflexed and everted foot we just chatted about today. And then get the left knee up into the left armpit. Now, that's not where it stops. I wiggle a lot more. Just kind of go back and forth and try to get it as high as possible. If you get it to the middle of the tricep, you're going to be bruising your tricep. Not a big deal. It's not a long-term injury. It's just uncomfortable. Okay? The higher up in the armpit, the nicer it will feel. Now, I can't balance this pose because my right foot's taking all the weight. I know this because my hands can come up off the ground. So I have to shift everything forward. So I lower my butt. You see, I lower my butt, lift my chest, and walk forward. Then I lean forward by lifting my bottom heel. Here we go. Lean, 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 and pull my right knee into the chest. Left shin is pressing down into my arms. Okay. And that, I didn't really make mention of the flexion of the spine, but to get the leg up as tight as close as possible, I'm doing this flexion of the spine. I'm rounding my back, and that makes me more compact. Now, where it gets really, or what gets, where the pressing of the leg down into the arm gets really important is when you are taking the extended variation of flying pigeon. So to do that, to extend the back leg, you have to be pressing down into the arm with the leg so that your hips can elevate. Your hips lift up from the pressure down, or not the pressure, but the action of pressing down into the front hip. So we roll the pose a little bit more vertically, and then we extend like so. So on all fours, if you started like this, you would extend the leg back like this first, and up, and then the knee. Okay, what most people try to do is they try to go like this. They try to reach straight back, and then they fall back because your body's not ready to counterbalance the weight. If something goes back, you need to lean forward. And if you just reach back, most people won't lean forward enough or at the same rate as the leg going back. And so instead of finding balance, they will fall back. So what I suggest is you extend the leg with a bent knee. So less weight is back, then extend at the knee joint once you've balanced with a bent knee, for those of you going to the next phase. So watch the demonstration. Everything's the same so far. Nothing's changed. Now I push down into my right shin. So instead of being down here like this, I push down, pelvis goes up. I extend with a bent knee and then a straight leg. You see this foot wants to fall down, okay? So that's why the foot is trying to clamp as much as it can, because it no longer has the bottom knee to pull it in tight. All it has is the clamping of the foot, okay? So that foot clamp is really important if you were doing the extended variation. So, do your best to incorporate that. I'm gonna do it on the left side, and you can try also on your right side. Left ankle, here we go. Everything remains the same. Of course, those of you just practicing the compact version, you just ignore the part about extending the leg and just work on pulling your knee to your chest. Lean forward, grip the ground. Oh, not a good place for my knee, so I'm just going to readjust. Feel it already? Okay. Extend with a bent knee, then straight. Pressing the leg down into the arm is what helps elevate the pelvis. Look, you can do this pose flat with the hips down low and you're really in a pigeon posture. That requires a tremendous amount of body weight leaning forward, tremendous amount. And when I was younger, I used to love doing that variation just flat as can be, because it certainly required a certain amount of strength and flexibility in the wrist that I was really after. However, I don't know that that is the best approach when learning the posture. It might be something that you work towards over time once this posture becomes more accessible and you can extend the leg up to the sky and everything feels good. Then you start to lower the torso and buttocks so that you're more flat. That's a level beyond, in my opinion, because if your leg's not up here and it's down here, that means more weight is back, which means that your front end has to lean forward. It means you have to really be more mobile in the wrist, more hyperextensive in the wrist, and yet still have the same amount of strength to sustain that hyperextension. All right, let's wind down. So especially if you were doing the knee into the chest variation, which everyone started there, the hip flexors are probably a little tired, mine are, so we'll go back to that thigh stretch. Switch sides. Okay, release. Come on to our backs. Let's do a mild bridge pose. So just activating the glutes and back muscles here.
Come on down. Extending out for Shavasana. Bring awareness now back to your breath. Awaken the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms. Roll to your side.
the seated position.
Let's place the palms at heart center. Feel the sensations in your pelvis or around the hips, joints, muscles that surround. Thank you all so much for your efforts and your exploration of Galavasana, flying pigeon. Hope you enjoyed the experience. Namaste. All right. Kristen says, I can balance briefly in the first variation, but it's hard to lean forward enough to keep everything compact. Real line and go back to the steps. Yeah, it's never going to be easy. So usually I recommend you put a nice big pillow in front of you, and you could actually put the pillows up so high that you put your head on them, and then you can vary the amount of weight is in your head just by leaning forward. And of course you have the cushions there, and you know, you can slowly learn how to lean forward with your head on something. So that's a good way of kind of getting used to leaning forward more. Same, Kristen, I'm struggling to keep the elbows bent and shifting forward through the lift in the back leg. Okay, so when lifting the back leg, the elbows are straightening a little bit. Is that what's happening, Sabui? I mean, it's a mild bend of the elbow. It's not significant. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if your elbows are just straight, if they're locking out, yeah, then you're gonna have to lean and bend the elbows a little bit. Okay. Why would the elbows be straightening? I've seen that. I'm just trying to figure out. Try flexing the spine more, and that might force your elbows to bend. It's a hard one. I think it's flexibility of the hips and hinders me the most. Yeah. Great. Good day to you and evening, Mikhail. Enjoy. Sleep well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. And we got one more left. Looking forward to sharing it with you before the holidays ensue. I mean, Sabui is probably not your triceps, just probably a matter of kind of biomechanically getting your nervous system to, you know, get used to that position of leaning. I would just practice planks with elbows bent like this. You know, with a slight micro bend in the elbows, and get used to that feeling. Just the willingness to do it, you know, like getting the body to, it's certainly more effort. That's probably why your body's avoiding it than, you know, just straightening the arm doesn't require as much effort. So bend the elbows and just try to get used to that sensation of exerting more energy. Okay, everyone, have a great day. We'll see you on the next one and on Friday for those of you that are practicing live.